Hey everyone, welcome to part 4 of the series Not What I Expected. And today we're talking about the way. The way this was handled and the way this happened is not what I expected. How many of you have said that throughout 2020 for different reasons? You know, the way they handled schools was not what I expected. Closing down everything was not what I expected. The way they did this, the way that person said this, the way these people are fighting on social media, debating if this is real or not, was not what I expected. The way we've done things is not what I've expected. Maybe you've even cried out to God in your prayers and said, God, the way that you've allowed this, the way that you've led me, the way that you've been in control of the situation is not what I expected. And I'm sure it was the same question for Mary and Joseph at that time. The way this is all happening today, this evening, and Jesus being born is not what I expected. They're probably looking at each other. They realize the situation that they're in is not ideal. None of the relatives are there. They're alone. No other people from the city are there. They're all in their homes. The city is so packed that they have no room, and so they're in a stable that is smelly, that is yucky. The place that they're in is not ideal. The situation that they're in is not the one that they had planned for. It's not what we expected. The people that show up to greet them, the shepherds, the lowly shepherds, are not who they expected to come and welcome them. This whole situation, the way it's happening, is not what they expected. But I think it really paints a picture of who Jesus is and the way things played out. I mean, we think about Jesus being born in a stable, being put in a manger, in a feeding trough where animals would feed from, in a dirty, smelly, muddy, filled with manure location. I think it really paints the picture of who Jesus is, because he left his throne on high. He left his place, his godliness. He emptied himself of his godlikeness, as Philippians 2 tells us, and came to this sin-filled world that was just messy and dirty, which tells us that he's not afraid to get dirty with our mess. And we see that all through the life of Jesus. I think this was just a revelation of what was to come, that Jesus was not afraid to reach in to your life and to my life and say, I don't care how messy your location and your place and your situation and the people around you is, I will make a way. I'm going to walk into it. I'm going to enter into it. I'm going to reach in and purify it and clean it and make you whole. I can change your situation. I can do it a different way, and maybe not the way that you think I should do it, but I have a way, and I can get it done. Then he's wrapped in linen. He's wrapped in linen, and he's lying in a manger. The way even Jesus shows up speaks volumes. He doesn't show up as a conquering warrior, as the Jews were all expecting to get rid of the Romans, who were the people that were in control of their land. He doesn't show up as a conquering warrior, calling people to arms and going to fight. And then, as we see later on in the Gospels, people wanted to crown him king because he was able to feed them and do miracles to heal people. And what a better warrior to have with you, a general would have with you, who will provide eternal, endless food to your people, and that can heal and bring people back to life. I mean, who wouldn't want that in your army? But he doesn't show up as a conquering warrior, and he doesn't show up even as a ruling king, showing in with trumpets blaring and blasting, and a chariot filled with a whole place of people coming in and saying, "Hello, watch, the king, the Messiah is here." He doesn't show up as a ruling king. He doesn't even show up as an educated theologian or a rabbi that was esteemed and looked upon and said, wow, this guy knows what he's talking about. He doesn't even show up as a charismatic leader who is calling people left and right to be like, hey, come over here and let's create this movement. No, he shows up as a little baby, helpless, needing to rely on his mother for sustenance and for food. The very individuals that he created, as we're told in Genesis, now creating a atmosphere and location and a place for him to survive. They are providing for him the sustenance he needs to grow and mature and grow up. His arrival dictated his life and who he is and how he would live. So when we look at the way that Jesus did things when he came, the way that God orchestrated this, we can look back and say, this is not what we expected the Messiah to look like. This is not the way that we thought God would plan this out. This is not what I expected. And my question is, what do you do when God shows up in a different way than what you expected? When God does something different in a different way. When you've been praying that God do this or open this door and God opens another door and you say that's not the way and God says this is the way and you're like, but I didn't expect it to be this way. God, I didn't think you were going to work through this way or even do it differently or from what I'm expecting, God. What is going on? How many of us throughout 2020 have thought this? God, the way that this is playing out is not what I expected. God, where are you? I can see you're opening doors, but I didn't expect you to open them in this way and in this circumstance and situation. So I want to challenge you to do the following. To expect to be surprised in your journey with God. So many of us may be, control freaks maybe, if that's appropriate to say, where you plan out everything and you have to do it A, B, and C, and then A, B, C, D, and you have A1, A2, A3, A4, and you go to God in your prayer moments and you say, God, this is my list. This is how I'm expecting everything to play out. And God looks at it and maybe Scott is just like, okay, that's not the way that's going to happen because I know the ways, and my thoughts are higher than yours. My ways are higher than yours as well. And so we're going to do things a little bit differently. So I'm encouraging you and challenging you to expect to be surprised because his ways are many times unorthodox. They're out of the box. And his ways are different from ours. The way he may do things will not be what we expect, but it will then, in hindsight, be better and the best way that could have ever been done. I also want you to embrace the way that God is leading you in. Embrace the way. Look around and say, you know what? I am okay because God is in control. I may not know the way, but I know the one who is leading me because sometimes the way is hard. Sometimes the way is long. Sometimes the way seems lonely, but Jesus is there every step of the way. Sometimes the way may seem dirty and messy as Joseph and Mary are looking around in their situation. But I want you to know that disappointment and frustration are okay in our spiritual journey, in our journey with God. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be disappointed because we're trying to figure out what God wants for us, what the way that he wants us to walk in is. But I want to encourage you that when you have those disappointments and frustrations, to take it to God, to share it with Jesus, to tell him about it. God, man, I lost my job. This is not the way that I thought 2020 would play out. God, I lost a loved ones. What is going on? God, I don't know what's going on. God, my family's divided because we can't agree on what is going on. There is just so much tension going on around us. Help me, God. Share that disappointment and frustration with God. Be honest. Say, God, 2020 sucked. There's no other way to go around it. I mean, it really just rocked my socks. I mean, it was just like, it was crazy. I didn't expect it to be like this. This is not what I expected when I heard 2020 was coming. I thought it was going to be my year of favor and blessing. But God, 2020 really sucked. I lost, and fill in the blank, my job, a loved one, my relationship, my sanity. I lost my password to Zoom and I can't log back in. Share that disappointment and frustration with God. And lastly, I want you to focus on Jesus. I want you to pray and say, God, help me focus on you. That when I don't know the way, that I may focus on the way. Because Jesus tells us that he is what? The way, the truth, and the life, and he will lead you home. He will continue to lead you this year, 2020 and 2021, and all we have to do is pray and say, God, I'm coming to you with my frustrations, my disappointments, my confusion, my anxiety, and I need your help. I need you to speak into my situation, to my location, to where I'm at, and God, just be with me. And I want you to pray also that God will help you to focus on him. That when everything around you is just going crazy, that you may have this lens that focuses in on Jesus. Because he is the way, the truth, and the life. And though the way may be hard, and though the way may be not what you expected, you can rest assured that God is with you, that he is leading you, and you will make it home. Love you all. Hope you have a blessed Christmas time, that you may enjoy the Christmas tree, that you may be merry, very merry in this Christmas, and that God will continue to lead you as we go into a new year. See you later.